So hello and welcome to the Maker Studio at Beyond the Pink Door, my new sewing space where we are going to be teaching classes, holding sewing socials, and also it's my space for doing sew-alongs, and that's what I'm here today to do. So this one, to be perfectly honest with you, is a little practice sew-along. So today's sew-along is done mostly for me, but I hope you enjoy it as well. It is for me to get my camera angles right. I have two cameras set up. It's also to see how my cameras react to the lighting, because we've completely different lighting here. We are facing west, so it's actually quite bright. I have filmed this over 2 days, and the lighting has been different on both days. I also haven't filmed a sew-along for quite a while, and I needed to reset all of the settings on my two cameras. So that was quite interesting. So at one point in this sew-along, I just thought I was going to trash the whole thing, but anyway, I turned it around and we have a full sew-along, and hence you are watching it. Today's sew-along is all about making the Wardrobe by Me boyfriend sweater, and it is this one. So I've made this one. I have been lucky not to have a big star anywhere specific, apart from I have a big star right in the middle, but I'm so glad I don't have them anywhere else. So that was purely luck. I've made this once already, so I've made this one here that's on my mannequin, and I always like to make one first and then do a sew-along, because that normally gets me over the hump of anything going wrong. And if you watch to the end, you'll realise that didn't quite work this time. But anyway, here we are in a finished sweater, and it is quite an oversized, relaxed sweater. Let's see if we can get another camera angle here so I can show you more of it. So there it is. It's your typical sweater. It's got cuffs, it's got a bottom band, it's got a neckline, it's got dropped shoulders and really nice length sleeves. So I hope that you enjoy it, and I'll see you at the end. So today we are going to make the Wardrobe by Me boyfriend sweater. It is described as an oversized casual with roomy, cozy fit. The generously sized sleeves feature drop shoulders and a laid-back vibe. Both the sleeves and hem have ribbed bands, providing a structured finish to manage the fabric's fullness, and the pattern is unisex. It comes in sizes 2XS to 4XL. Flicking through the instructions, there are instructions on how to print the pattern, and the really great thing about this is it comes in a layered pattern, so it gives you an idea of how to print it just to your size. Then we have a front back sleeve, hemband, cuff and neckband, so these are all of our pattern pieces. We have our measurements and our fabric requirements. So we have it sized for 5'5" up to 5'11". So I guess you have the lady sizes and going into the medium sizes and up to the men's sizes with the taller height. Tells us our fabric requirements. That was our imperial, and then we also have them in metric. We have some notes here which I like, because first of all it tells you that the pattern has a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is brilliant. It suggests using a medium to heavyweight French terry and good quality rib to match. Then it tells us that we need fabric, rib, sewing thread, and we can sew it with a stretch seam or we can sew it on a serger. And it's got lots of illustrations. Now what you will notice, and what I have noticed on the Wardrobe by Me patterns, is there isn't particularly a fabric layout, so it's up to you to decide how to cut out your sweater. And this is a nice, simple beginner's sweater. So we start here by going by all the instructions. So I have printed out my pattern, and I've decided on my size, and I've cut out all my pattern pieces down to the size that I like. I've already made this, I'm wearing it today, so I'm very confident to cut this out. I'm using a fluffy back soft sweatshirting, and I'm using this including the fabric itself for the ribs and for the cuffing. and I think it'll be absolutely fine. So it's really lovely and soft. So I have pre-washed my fabric, and I've also ironed it, and I've also ironed all of my pattern pieces because they had been folded up, and I find it easier once they're ironed to pin them out and cut them. It's so much easier, and it takes a couple of minutes, but it's definitely worth that. So I'm going to lay out my fabric and I'll show you how I am going to cut it out. So here's my fabric all laid out, and I have my front and back here. And this is generally how I cut out all of my sweatshirts. So I've got my front and back. They need to both be on a fold. So I like to lay them out and then cut across this fabric. I'm going to cut right across. And then I'm going to refold the fabric, so I have two folds. So obviously you would pay attention if you had a directional print. We lay the fabric like so. Okay, we need another little bit. There we go. Now I'm just getting my tape measure and I'm making sure that this is straight along the grain. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to pin my piece down. So I'm happy with that number of pins. And then I'm going to pin my other piece. I'm going to repeat the process. And then we've got our sleeves, our bottom band, our neckband, and our cuff to cut out of the next piece. So I'm actually going to do the sleeve next. Now, what's unusual and very handy beginner-wise for this sleeve is that it's just a one-side sleeve, so we don't have to worry about a back or a front or anything like that. And I am going to cut one sleeve at a time. You could fold over 2 layers of fabric, but there's a good chance then that you wouldn't get a nice fold, and you could end up potentially with 2 very slightly different sized sleeves. So I think for this it's better to do one at a time. So I'm going to do the same as the front and back. Fold up, double check that we're on grain. Okay, we're slightly off. Little shake. Okay, that's better. Now, pin this one in place. You'll notice that I'm going all in the same direction with my sleeve and my front and back. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this sleeve out because I want to use the pattern piece. So that's one sleeve. And I'm going to do the same with the second sleeve on the other side here. And we want a pair of sleeves, so I'm going to make sure I'm going in the same direction. Not so hugely important with this fabric because it's not really that directional, and if one of the sleeves was upside down, I don't think it would hugely matter. But I'm going to get my other, and I'm going to turn it over this time. So we're still going in the same direction, but I've turned my pattern piece over, and I need another little bit there. I'm not going to be wasteful of fabric, so I'm going to go close to the end and pin it down and then cut it out. Now that's from over there, so our next one to cut out now are our bottom band and our cuffs. Now, because I'm not using a cuffing fabric, I want to make sure that I'm cutting out the cuffs and the bottom band using the greatest amount of stretch on the fabric. So I sometimes find with these soft sweatshirtings that there may not always be the most stretch in the width where you'd expect it. Sometimes it can be on the length. So just flatten this out. There we go. So just checking width across the fabric. Not a massive amount of stretch, but definitely far more down along the grain. So I'm going to turn my pattern pieces, so rather than having them on the grain, I'm going to go against the grain, and in this case it'll work out far better for me because it'll give me more stretch. So here's my bottom band, and here's my cuff, and then I have my neck band. So I can see that in the front there I'm going to have a piece of fabric down the middle there. So I'm actually going to keep that for my neckband. And then here I'm actually going to double the fabric over. So what I was suggesting that you don't do for the sleeve, but I think for the bottom band it will be fine. And just where you have your double fold there, just make sure that it is all folded right into the center, so I can feel the two pieces there, so that's really nice. And I'm going to pop that onto the fold. Now a little piece there I didn't iron out so well. And that's that. So I'm going to go through all the layers. So this pattern piece is just for a quarter of the waistband, and we're cutting two lots, so a front and a back. So that's that. So I shall move my sleeves and my bottom band out of the way. And now again, my cuff, I want to have the greatest amount of stretch as well to get around my wrist, because I do like rolling up my sleeves. And it's only quite a small cuff. So on this, we're going to be putting it on the fold again, and we're going to be cutting two lots. So I think it might be quite tight here, but we'll give it a go. A lot of these fabrics tend to curl, so I don't know if I feel brave enough here to cut two lots. I don't think so. I think what I'll do is we'll try a different technique this time. I'll just make sure there is enough fabric. Okay. So I've got two layers here. What I'm going to do is cut along here. and then to here, just to the edge of the pattern piece. Okay, that looks good. Then I'm going to take off my pattern piece and re-pin it. There we go. Now, I always need to really concentrate on this because I can instinctively cut across here. I've done it before. So I'm going to cut right across. These curly bits can just be a little annoying. You can still see that. Now, so there are my cuffs. And then I'm going to cut out my front and my back, and then my neckband. So here we go. We'll whiz through cutting these bits out. Okay, we're going to cut out the neckband. So again, I want it with the most amount of stretch so that I can stretch it onto the sweater, and I can also get it on over my head. Now let's look and see, do we have any notches or anything? There's this notch here on the cuff is really just for the halfway mark, so that's where we're folding. The one on the neck as well, the neckband is only for folding. The front doesn't have one, but I like to do just a tiny little notch here in the center front. And this comes in handy when we're putting on the neckband. I'm going to do the same here as well on the center back, so just the tiniest little piece cut out, especially because we've got a small seam allowance on these. Normally we would have a front and back notch for our sleeves, so we got nothing on this one. And then we have our bottom band as well, and our notch is just really for our folding, so that's no big deal. So there we go. We're all cut out and ready to go. So to start sewing, I'm going to start on the neckband, the cuff, and the bottom band. And I find I'll just do these, sew up the little seams, they're all straight, and then they're done. So it may feel like kind of a weird place to start, but first of all, we are going to do that tiny little notch that we did on the neck, and we're going to do that on the neckband as well. So that's just finding the center of it. Now we're going to dispense with the pins because we're going to sew these pieces on the overlocker, and when I'm sewing things together on the overlocker, I much prefer to use clips because it's very easy to sew through a pin without noticing, whereas a clip is far easier to notice it's there. So I'm just putting the two short ends of the neckband together, clipping them together. You'll notice I don't use too many clips. I much prefer to guide things in with my fingers. I find that too many clips or too many pins just kind of, well, they get in the way, and they can almost cause fabrics to go in a little bit more crooked, or maybe that is just me. So we have our two bottom bands, one for the front, one for the back, and we're going to clip them together on their short sides. So making sure that you have the edges together. Hopefully they don't curl too much. Just making sure that they're even. and we'll stick a clip on it. And then we need to be careful with our cuff because it's really easy to actually sew this the wrong way together. So we have our fold line here, so what we want to do is turn it that way, and this is where our seam is. So we'll just be careful not to turn it. So we're going to go there, and while that's there, I'm going to fold that one. Because they're not exactly a square, but they're not too far off. Right, let's gather all of these together. So we have our two cuffs, our bottom band, and our neck band. So here we are at our overlocker, and I've threaded it up in two of the lovely multicoloured threads and then two plain ones. So the loopers have the multicoloured ones and the needles have the plain ones. So here it goes. So on our overlocker we have 1/4 of an inch between our outside needle and our inside here, so I can go straight in. I don't have to trim down the fabric or anything, it's great. I'm sewing with 2 needles and 2 loopers, so I like to do that because it gives good strength to the seams. I know that some people take out one of the needles and do a 3-thread overlock, but I always leave in 2 needles and the 2 loopers, and then it's a good solid seam. Get that in there. Right, let's get comfortable here. So I'm going to start with the neckband, and I'm going to start my foot pedal and just go for it. Let me see if we can get a better angle there. Okay. Take our clip out. I'm going to chuck it in here into the little box, that's handy. Now I'm going right to the end, and then I'm going to overlock so I have a chain. So I'm going to leave the neck like that. And I'm going straight in with my bottom band. So I'm joining them together. I'm going to go for the other side of the bottom band. I'm just adjusting as I go to make sure my seams are together, or my edges are together. And because of my thread, I'm ending up with a really nice looking overlocking stitch. Can't be appreciated on these parts though, because they're going to actually be inside, as in they're going to be folded over, but it'll give a really nice finish to the inside of the rest of the sweatshirt. Now I'm going to cut it off. So here we have our overlocked pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my chain of thread in the middle. So I'm not going to trim it off tight. I'm going to give it a little pull so it kind of tightens up a little bit. And the same for all the pieces. And I have my iron heating up here on my little ironing pad. So I'm going to give a little run with the iron just to set the stitches. So I find that really nice because if they've gone slightly wobbly, like so, the bit of heat just flattens everything out and makes everything sit nicely. That's my neckband, and here's my hemband. I'll just trim a little bit of extra thread off there. But I still want to have tails hanging out. So for my bottom band, I'm going to press my seams to one side. So I'm going to press one direction, like that. I'm going to press the other going in the other direction. And then I'm going to fold them in half. So I'm going to bring my seams together here at the top. I'm going to grab my clips again. Just clip the seams together, making sure they're all going in the same direction and my tails of threads are sticking out. I'm going to put another couple of clips, keep the raw edges together. This is really lovely soft fabric. So yeah, just to make sure that you don't end up with like a wobble or too much fabric, just keep it nice and even. And then we're going to just press this end here. And I know it probably feels a little bit weird doing something like this right at the very beginning, but it's done now. And yeah. And all around. So that's our bottom band. Now our neckband is done in just the same way, only we've got one seam this time. We just press it to one side and keeping the threads out, we're going to clip it together, and then we're going to find that little notch and put a clip at the notch. Another two into the centers between the clips. Trim a bit of that off as well. And we're going to press the edge of this one as well. Now the cuffs are ever so slightly different. So we'll just fold it so that the seam is there in the center, and we'll press it to one side, doesn't really matter which side. And then we're going to fold seams together and then fold all the rest of it out so that we have like a double layer of fabric. Just takes a little bit of maneuvering. Again, we have our threads. And then we'll just give a little press of the edge and pop a clip in. And then we obviously do the same for the other cuff. Next, grab your front and back. We take our pins out. And then open out your front or your back. Right sides up. And then get your other side. And then we're going to place shoulder seams together. And again, we're going to get edges together. A couple of clips. Holding them together. And you can put as many or as few as you like. We're going to go back over to the overlocker with these. Now here we are with our two shoulder seams. And I'm going to do the same as I did for the other pieces. I'm going to overlock and go straight running into the next one. So in we go, clip out. There we go. I'm going to snip in between the two. So our two shoulder seams are done, and we're going to press our seams towards the back. And you'll know the back because it's got a shallower neckline. So there we go. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our neckband. So hello, and just to interrupt the sew along, this is Andrea from The Following Day, and I'm wearing the finished sweatshirt. So we are at the point in the sew along now where I'm putting in the neckband, and the pattern does ask for ribbing around the neck. Now on the previous one that I made, the neckband was a little tight going in, but I did get it in with a little bit of ease, and I do love fighting a little bit of ease at times. But this was such a huge struggle, and where it did go in, it's not ideal. I wore it yesterday evening and I just found the neckband a little bit too tight. So definitely when you're using ribbing, you definitely need it a little bit shorter so that it sits in nice and flat and it doesn't kind of stand up like a little semi-turtleneck. But yeah, I just don't like the finish of this, and it's one of those things where I think I will wear the sweatshirt, but I won't wear it because of the neckband. So I'm going to unpick it out, and I'm going to recut the neckband. And I will be honest, I did think I'm going to trash the whole sew along because I'm not happy with the way it's turned out, but I thought it would be interesting and it might be handy for you to know how, if the neckband just doesn't fit, how I calculate cutting a new neckband and fitting it in, and then we'll have a look at how much better it fits than this. So at the moment this has little kind of gathery bits that I'm, yeah, not happy with. It's feeling quite choky, and because I've got forward shoulders and I haven't done any sort of adjustment, it is kind of going up quite close to my neck. And it's not that it's a struggle to get on over my head, it did go on over my head, but I just don't feel it's right. Now, here's a little bit of a of a preempting. The cuffs are also too small, so even though they do have stretch on them and they do fit absolutely perfectly, I do have to gather them in. So you're going to see that a little bit further. So that was like the little spoiler alert was what I was trying to think of. Now, I'm not sad about that because, yes, I do like rolling up my sleeves and I can't with this, but a lot of the time I actually do cut down the cuffs so that they fit snugly around. And I have to say, I really like the little gathers that I put in, so that's just spoiler alert. Bottom band went on absolutely fine, but yeah, just lesson learned. I haven't used Wardrobe by Me patterns that often, and really I guess I should have seen with the neckband that it was actually quite small in comparison to what I'm usually making. So yeah, let's just unpick this and we'll carry on with the sew along. So I am unpicking my overlocking thread, and I just thought, you know what, let's turn this kind of negative into a positive. I often read questions where people say, how do you unpick overlocking? So as I explained earlier on, I've got 2 lines of needle thread and then I have my looper threads. So what I do is I just go to a spot and I just break my needle thread. And then every sort of centimetre or centimetre and a half, I pick up my needle thread and I just pull it out like that. So, and then go back to where I started doing that and I pull out my other needle thread. So again, just break it. It's always easier on this one, of course, because it's got looser, and then that, and then you can just pull out your looper threads and then it's unpicked. So I'm going to do that all around. Okay, so I've done all my unpicking of my neckband and I have done a quick pressing of my fabric, and it's not overstretched or anything. That's all I was slightly worried about. Now what's handy here is in this instance I can see where my stitching line is, and I also have my notches. So I'm going to grab a couple of pins and I'm just going to fold in at my notch at the front. I'm being careful not to stretch the neck out. I'm going to pin the 2 side seams together, so keeping the neck together, neck edges together, I'm just pinning the side seam. And I'm just pinning together just so that the neck edges are together, because I want to measure half the length of the neck opening and use my little formula. So there we go as well. Now, so there we go, there's our neckline, and using my tape measure on my centimetre side, I am going to measure the length of my neckline. Now I'm not going to measure the outside edge, I'm going to measure the stitching line. So again, stitching line is very handy because it's actually here from the unpicking, but if it's not, obviously you could draw in your stitching line, and we know on this that our seam allowance was 1/4 of an inch, so we basically want to measure in 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So I'm going to go along here with my tape measure, so I'm putting it down this way, not this way, but this way, and then I'm just bringing it along my stitching line to measure it. And I've got, now I am trying to be accurate, but I'm also trying to keep my hands out of the way. Okay, I've got 28.5 is my measurement. Now I'm going to open the calculator on my phone and I'm going to put in 28, and then I'm going to multiply it by 0.8, meaning that I want 80% of the 28. Can you see that? And it comes in at 22.4. Now I also want to add on my seam allowance, which is 7 millimeters. So this is 22.4 centimeters. So I'll just multiply that by 10 to get millimeters, and then add on 7. And we've got basically 23 centimeters. So let's see how that compares to our neckband. So here's our neckband, and 23, so it's about 1.5 centimeters shorter, and this may not sound like a huge amount to you, but overall then that is 3 centimeters overall, which is that much. And again, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it means a huge amount when you're easing in a neckband. So let's cut a new neckband which is 23 centimeters long, and luckily I have enough fabric. So I've been in my trusty bin and I've got out the same piece of fabric that I cut my original neckband from. And just lay it down there. Now ideally what I'd like to do is add onto this piece of paper, but what I will do is I will leave the fold line out by the correct amount. So a little bit more out. There we go. So because I've measured half the neckline and we have half the pattern here, it was good to do those measurements all in halves. So I hope all of that made sense. So I'm going to cut this out and I'm going to join it together, and then we're going to be back to inserting it in our sweater. Okay, so we've got our neckband sewn together, and what I'm going to do is I've put a pin here where the centre back is. Oops, thread. And I've done a little snip here at the centre front. I'm going to put a pin there so it's more visible. Now I'm going to bring those pins together because I want to quarter up this neckband. And then where it folds here, I'm going to put a pin there. So that's basically finding a quarter. And then the same on the other side. I've got a quarter here. And then I'm going to quarter up my neckline. So I've already got it. I've already got my notch here at the front and the one at the back. So very similarly, I'm going to bring my two notches together. Now this is where I find as well that some people go wrong. So they quarter up their neckband and then they use the shoulder seam as the quarterway mark, but it isn't the quarterway mark because our neckline is always deeper at the front. So sticking a pin there into the two, and then I'm finding my quarter here on the side and then on the other side, and it's quite close to the shoulder line but not on the shoulder line, so it's about, there we go, it's about 1.5 centimeters away. So okay, I'm going to put a pin on the front and the one on the back as well, because that just makes it easier putting the neckband in. So here we have our neck line, our neck hole, I never quite know what to call it, and here's our neckband. So this is our back, so I'm going to go in here, put these two pins together, and put one pin in. Now you'll notice I'm using pins this time and not clips, and that's because I like to sew the neckband on with the sewing machine first. So here we go with the front pins. So again, let's put one pin in, and then we're going to match up the side pins as well. And now we have some ease, but certainly not as much as we had the last time. It's incredible that difference, adding that little extra made. So before I get carried away, I'm going to go back and put these pins in as well. So that's our quarters pinned, and now we'll go to the pieces in between. So the trick here is to stretch the neckband and not the neckline. So I'm just stretching the neckband there, and I'm going to put a pin here in the middle, and then onto the next quarter, stretching the neckband, and I'm putting a pin here into there. I've done that one already, and then here's the one at the back, and that makes a massive difference. And then we're going to go and sew this on the sewing machine, and then we're going to overlock it. I have my Maraflex thread in, and I've taken off my free arm. I've set my stitch to quite a long one. It's 3.5 on my sewing machine, and it's 4 stitches to the centimetre roughly, so quite a long stitch, which was quite good when I had to unpick my neckband. So I'm just starting off in the centre back, and I'm going to sew. I'm sewing on the sweater side rather than on the neckband side, and I always do this because then I can control any little pucks or any ease on the fabric side. So here we go. Pin out. I want to make sure that my shoulder seam stays going towards the back. I don't want it to be twisted. Back with another little quick interlude. What a difference that 1.5 centimetres on the fold made to this sweater. So it went in like a piece of cake, and it pressed out beautifully, and it feels, oh my goodness, it actually feels like such a different sweatshirt. Definitely feels far more comfy, and I don't have all those horrible little gather lines from the neckline. So yeah, so much better. So yeah, I hope that helped. Yeah, file it away. It may help you at some point. So grabbing our sweater, we're going to lay it out so that our armhole is flat. Lay it out this way, you might be able to see it better. So there you go, there's your shoulder seam. And then we have our sleeve with the top of the sleeve. And then we are going to clip the sleeve to the armhole all the way across. Now I like to clip there on both ends, and then we'll see, have we any ease? I don't think we have, but I think it should just slot in nicely. Yeah, that seems to work nicely. So just progress across, clipping your sleeve into place. So you're not stretching one or the other, you're just keeping it all nice and flat. and even. And that works out beautifully. So we're going to clip the other sleeve in the very same way and then go back to our overlocker. I'm going to sew from the sleeve side. I don't really think it makes any difference because there's no easing involved. And let me see, where's my foot pedal gone? First clip out. Let me see, can I get this in any better? Now we're at a slightly wonky angle, but I'm on a funny little tripod with this camera, so I want to try and get the view in here, so hopefully that'll work. So you can see there that I'm using the edge as my seam allowance guide. I'm really liking my coloured thread. Oops, my camera's moving. Okay, let me tighten up a screw. Can't beat a bit of amateur filming, can you? We've got our sleeves in, and the first thing we're going to do then is just iron straight down on top of our stitching to set our stitches. And then I like to press my seam into my sweatshirt. So grab it by the shoulders, give it a little shake, and then your side seams come together and your sleeves. So let's grab another couple of clips and let's take them out of the overlocker container. Now first one is to clip the underarm together. And then another one or two along to keep the edges together. And we're going to do that on both sides. So that's one side together. And then we'll do the other one. I'm going to start off at the end of the sleeve and I'm going to sew straight across. I like to start at the sleeve edge because my seam is pressed into my sweater. I'm going straight over it rather than if we started at the bottom of the sweater. You'd be trying to keep this from curling out or turning directions even. So yeah, that's fun. Straight over. So again, we are going to set our stitches. This looks so pretty on the inside. At this point now, you will be delighted that you have your cuffs and your bottom band already sewn. I think now after doing the neck, and it was so tight, I think it's going to be a little bit of a fight to get the cuffs into the sleeves. But hey ho, we can do a little bit of gathering if we have to. Now I'm going to get my threads that are hanging out and I'm going to shove them into the cuff. There we go. Come on, buddies, work with me. And then I'm going to clip that onto my seam. And then assess, is this going to stretch? No chance. Okay, well then in that case I am going to have to do a little bit of gathering. I wonder, is gathering in the actual pattern? I suppose I could be reading the instructions, couldn't I? Let's have a look. No, gathering is not part of it, but hey ho, let's improvise. So I am going to, I think I'm going to sew this on my sewing machine and just put some little gathers in to fit it into place. I'm just evenly distributing. So obviously this pattern definitely needs ribbing. The fabric itself is just not stretchy enough for it. But anyway, this is going to be cute and it's going to be gathered and it'll be absolutely fine. So because I'm going to use my sewing machine, I'm pinning again. So this is how things go slightly wrong, but we just work around them. There we go. So I'm just distributing it evenly. So there's my two cuffs. Let's see how the neckband fits in. Now what we'll do with the neckband, the bottom band. So we have our two side seams. So if we bring our two side seams together and then we find the center, if I had brought over my scissors, I'm going to do a little notch there, and that's just finding the centers. Do you know, I really don't like clips. I much prefer pins. And there we go, our center part, and we're going to do the same on the sweater. And put our side seams together and find our center. I think I'm actually going to put a pin. Or will I clip? No, stay consistent, Andrea. And find our other center. And then, well, let's see how this goes. So, pinning side seams to side seams. Okay, there's our center. There's our center notch. Oh, that's definitely going to stretch. Okay. I keep giggling now because I think, oh, this is kind of where I've lost the will to live. This started off as a really lovely sew along and it's just sort of all gone to pot. So let's pin that. Yeah, this will stretch. Okay, so that's all right. So the bottom band is salvageable. Let's go to the sewing machine and see what we can do with these cuffs. So, I have decided, I've put my free arm back on and I've turned the sweatshirt right side out These IKEA desks are really deep, so I struggle to keep my foot pedal out where I can reach it with my short legs. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of gathering here, I think. Oh god, I forget. I go between different sewing machines, and some have the automatically, like the foot pedal goes down. This one doesn't. It's like getting out of an automatic car and getting into having to move gears, isn't it? So yeah, I'm just gonna lob a couple of kind of gathery tucks in through this. And I think that'll be fine. I'm just going to try and keep them as like consistent. Take out the pin. Oh, now I have a flashing light. Oh gosh. Okay. Right, let's get a little gather in there. Nice. No, I definitely don't want any gathers on the cuff. I just want them on the sleeve. Oh, there we go, okay. Oh, when you're used to doing like easing, it's kind of hard to do the opposite of like creating little tucks. Okay, we're around. That's one done. So here again at the end, so you've seen me at the beginning and the middle and another bit in the middle, and now we're at the end. So I really hope that you enjoyed my first sew along from my new space, and let's just admire my lovely wallpaper for the moment. It's not fully finished here at the moment, but yeah, hopefully by the time you see this sew along there'll be an awful lot more done. But I have really enjoyed sewing in this space today. I've enjoyed having space to set up my cameras. I didn't feel like I was tripping over anything, and I really liked it. I love the vibe in this studio. It's just, yeah, it's just so nice. I really enjoyed it. So hopefully I got over a lot of humps in this sew along, and hopefully you will see a lot more sew alongs coming from me soon. Thanks for watching.